Be me, Anne, 47 years old. Raised my son Walter as a single mother after his father left when Walter was 8. Always prided myself on being progressive and forward-thinking. Constantly engage in discussions about workplace equality and women's rights. Attend monthly book club where we analyze literature through various social lenses. Volunteer at local community center teaching financial literacy to women. Walter is now 26, works in software development, lives about 20 minutes away in his own apartment. We used to have dinner every Sunday, but that stopped about 6 months ago. He's been increasingly distant, and I can't figure out why. Every conversation feels strained and he gets irritated quickly. Last Tuesday, decided to drop by his place unannounced with homemade lasagna. Figure food is the universal peace offering. Knock on his door around 6 p.m. Walter opens it looking genuinely annoyed to see me. "What are you doing here, Mom?" His tone is cold, not the warm greeting I was hoping for. "I brought you dinner, sweetie. I made your favorite lasagna." Try to push past him into the apartment, but he blocks the doorway. "I didn't ask you to come over. I was in the middle of something." Notice he's wearing a nice button-down shirt. Looks like he was getting ready to go out. "Oh, do you have a date tonight?" Immediately feel excited at the prospect of meeting someone special in his life. Walter's expression darkens considerably. Not that it's any of your business, but yes. My heart leaps with joy. That's wonderful. What's her name? What does she do? When do I get to meet her? Start rapid-firing questions while trying to peek around him into the apartment. See a bouquet of flowers on his kitchen counter. Walter steps outside and closes the door behind him. "Mom, we need to talk." His voice has this serious, almost threatening quality I've never heard before. Sets the lasagna dish on the ground. "You're not meeting her. You're never meeting any woman I date. Ever." Completely taken aback by his hostility. "Walter, what are you talking about? I'm your mother. Of course I want to meet—" "No," he cuts me off sharply. "I've made a decision about my life, and you need to hear this clearly." Crosses his arms and stares at me with genuine anger in his eyes. "I will never, under any circumstances, bring a woman around you." Feel like I've been slapped. "Honey, why would you say something like that? I just want to be part of your life." Try to reach out and touch his arm, but he steps back. "You want to know why? Because of exactly who you are, Mom." His voice is getting louder, and I can see neighbors' curtains moving. Every single conversation we've had for the past decade has been you lecturing me about something. I don't lecture you, Walter. I share my thoughts and experiences. "No," he practically shouts. "You lecture, you analyze, you dissect everything through your ideology." Starts pacing back and forth on his small front porch. "Do you remember when I was 22 and brought Sarah around for Thanksgiving?" Of course I remember Sarah. Sweet girl, very quiet, studying to be a nurse. Yes, she was lovely. You spent the entire dinner explaining to her why nursing perpetuates gender stereotypes. Feel my chest tighten as he continues. You told her that women choosing caring professions was internalized misogyny. I was just trying to broaden her perspective. She left in tears, Mom. She left crying because you made her feel stupid for choosing a career she was passionate about. Walter stops pacing and faces me directly. And then you had the audacity to tell me afterward that I should find someone with more critical thinking skills. Remember that conversation differently. Thought I was helping him see that Sarah might not be intellectually stimulating enough. I just wanted you to be with someone who could challenge you. Sarah was perfect. She was kind, intelligent, hardworking, and she made me happy. His hands are clenched into fists at his sides. But you couldn't stand that she didn't share your worldview. Walter, that's not fair. I never said, "What about Rebecca?" Oh no, not Rebecca too. You remember Rebecca, right? The one studying veterinary medicine. Nod reluctantly. You spent an entire evening explaining to her how pet ownership was a manifestation of patriarchal dominance structures. That conversation had been quite enlightening, actually. Was sharing some fascinating research I'd read about power dynamics. I was discussing some interesting academic theories. She was talking about how much she loved animals, and you turned it into a dissertation on oppression. Walter's voice cracked slightly. She stopped returning my calls after that dinner. Starting to feel defensive. If these women couldn't handle intellectual discourse, there it is! Walter explodes. Right there. That condescending attitude that assumes anyone who doesn't agree with you is intellectually inferior. His face is red with fury. You've driven away every woman I've ever cared about with your need to educate everyone around you. Feel tears starting to form. I raised you to think critically about the world. I taught you to question systems of power. You taught me that nothing is ever simple or innocent, that everything has to be analyzed and deconstructed. Walter starts counting on his fingers. Sarah's career choice was problematic. Rebecca's love of animals was problematic. Jessica's enjoyment of romantic comedies was problematic. Jessica was definitely problematic, though. The girl thought those movies were realistic portrayals of relationships. Some of those things genuinely were worth examining. And what about Maria? Remember her? Of course I remember Maria. That relationship lasted almost a year. You liked Maria, I point out. I loved Maria, Walter shouts so loud that a dog starts barking somewhere. I was going to propose to Maria. Feel my stomach drop. Had no idea it was that serious. But then you couldn't help yourself, could you? His voice becomes dangerously quiet. You had to explain to her how her Catholic faith was a tool of patriarchal oppression. That had been a particularly productive conversation. Maria had seemed genuinely interested in examining her beliefs. She asked questions about my views on religion. I was being honest about. She was being polite. She was trying to understand your perspective because she loved me. Walter runs his hands through his hair. But you couldn't just share your views. You had to systematically dismantle everything she believed in. I never told her to abandon her faith. You told her that her desire to have children was influenced by patriarchal programming. Remember that conversation very clearly. Had been trying to help Maria understand the social pressures around motherhood. I was helping her examine whether that desire was truly her own. She wanted to be a mother, Walter screams. That was her dream, and you made her question whether her own desires were authentic. Feel genuinely confused. Isn't it important to examine our motivations? To understand what influences our choices? Walter stares at me like I've just proved his point. There it is again. The assumption that you know better than everyone else about their own lives. Leans against his doorframe. Maria left me because she said dating me meant having to constantly defend her entire existence to my mother. That seems like an overreaction. Had always been respectful during our conversations. I never attacked her personally. You didn't have to. You attacked everything she valued, everything she believed in, everything that made her who she was. Walter's voice becomes bitter. And then you wondered why she didn't want to be part of our family. Starting to feel like Walter is being unfair. All I ever did was encourage critical thinking. I've always supported your relationships. Supported? Walter laughs harshly. You've sabotaged every relationship I've ever had. Pushes himself off the doorframe. And the worst part is you think you were helping. Feel a surge of anger. I was trying to raise you to be a thoughtful person who doesn't just accept things at face value. You raised me to be alone, Walter interrupts. You raised me to be someone whose mother drives away every woman he cares about. His voice breaks slightly. Do you have any idea what it's like to love someone and watch your own mother systematically tear down everything they believe in? This is getting blown out of proportion. Walter, if these women couldn't handle having their ideas challenged, he shouts again. You didn't challenge their ideas. You dismissed their entire worldview as inferior. Starts pacing again. Every single one of them left thinking they weren't. Smart enough or enlightened enough for our family. That's not what I intended. Your intentions don't matter. Walter stops and faces me. The result is the same. I'm 26 years old, and I've never had a relationship last more than a year because of you. Feel my heart breaking. Honey, that's not my fault. Yes, it is, he explodes again. It's entirely your fault. Tears are flowing freely now. I just wanted to be involved in your life. I wanted to know the women you cared about. No, you wanted to educate them. You wanted to enlighten them. Walter's voice is full of pain and anger. You couldn't just accept them as they were. You had to fix them. Try to think of something to say that will make this better. What if I promise to be more careful about how I discuss things? No! Walter cuts me off immediately. It's too late for that. His voice becomes cold and final. I've made my decision. Feel panic rising in my chest. What decision? I'm done bringing women around you. Walter crosses his arms again. Any woman I date from now on will never meet you, never come to family gatherings, never be part of any situation where you're present. This can't be happening. Walter, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. His tone is matter-of-fact, like he's discussing the weather. I've learned my lesson. I've watched you drive away 4 women I cared deeply about. Looks me directly in the eyes. I won't let you do it again. Feel like the ground is shifting beneath me. You're going to exclude me from your romantic life entirely? Yes. Such a simple, devastating answer. Any woman I'm serious about will know that meeting my mother isn't an option. Can't believe what I'm hearing. What about when you get married? What about grandchildren? Walter's expression doesn't change. If I ever get married, you won't be at the wedding. Feel like I can't breathe. If I ever have children, you won't be their grandmother. This is insane. Walter, you can't mean that. I absolutely mean it. His voice is steady and determined. You've made it clear that you can't control yourself around the women in my life. Leans forward slightly. So there won't be any women in my life for you to meet. Try desperately to think of some way to fix this. What if we set boundaries? What if I promise not to discuss certain topics? I don't trust you to keep those promises. Walter shakes his head. You can't help yourself. It's who you are. Feel a surge of indignation. It's who I am to care about women's empowerment and equality. It's who you are to need to be right about everything. Walter's anger flares again. It's who you are to assume that your perspective is the only valid one. This conversation is spiraling out of control. I've devoted my life to fighting for women's rights, and you've destroyed my personal life in the process. Walter's voice is raw with emotion. Every woman I've ever loved has left feeling inadequate and judged. Try one more approach. What if I just listened more? What if I asked questions instead of sharing my thoughts? It's too late for that. Walter slams his hand against the doorframe. I've given you 4 chances and you've blown every single one. Feel completely helpless. So, what are you saying? That I'll never be part of your future family? That's exactly what I'm saying. Walter's voice becomes quiet but firm. Unless something fundamental changes about who you are as a person, which I don't believe is possible. Try to process what he's telling me. You'd really choose being alone over letting me meet someone you love? Walter pauses for a long moment. His expression becomes even more serious. Mom, I need you to understand something very clearly. Brace myself for whatever comes next. Walter takes a deep breath. I would rather die completely alone and unmarried than ever date, marry, or have a relationship with any woman who reminds me of you. Feel like I've been physically struck. I would rather spend the rest of my life in total isolation than subject another woman to your constant need to fix and educate everyone around you. Can't speak, can't breathe, can't process what he just said. My own son just told me he'd rather die alone than be with someone like me. And if that means I have to hide my relationships from you forever, then that's what I'll do." Walter's voice is completely steady. "Because I refuse to watch you destroy another person I love." Tears are streaming down my face. "Walter, please. There's nothing more to discuss." He reaches down and picks up the lasagna dish. "Thank you for dinner, but I need you to leave now." Stand there in shock as he turns toward his door. "I have a date tonight with someone wonderful." Looks back at me over his shoulder. "Someone you will never, ever meet." Goes inside and closes the door firmly behind him. Stand on his porch for I don't know how long, completely devastated, heartbroken beyond anything I've ever experienced. My son just told me he'd rather die alone than be with someone like me. How did trying to be a good influence become such a terrible thing? Drive home in a daze, can't stop replaying his words. I would rather die completely alone and unmarried than ever date, marry, or have a relationship with any woman who reminds me of you. Feel like my heart has been ripped out of my chest. Everything I thought I was doing right has apparently been wrong. Spend the next week unable to focus at work. Keep thinking about Sarah, Rebecca, Jessica, Maria. Did I really drive them all away? Was I really that overbearing? Thought I was helping them grow and think critically. Thought I was being a good feminist role model. Try calling Walter multiple times. Go straight to voicemail every time. Send texts apologizing. No responses. Drive by his apartment. His car isn't there. Realize he might be avoiding his own home because of me. Talk to my sister Helen about what happened. She listens quietly as I explain the situation. "Anne," she says carefully, "can I ask you something? Do you remember when Walter brought Mariah to my birthday party?" "Of course I remember. You spent 20 minutes explaining to her why our quinceañera tradition was problematic. Feel defensive." I was sharing some interesting anthropological perspectives. She was talking about a happy memory from her childhood. Helen's voice is gentle but firm. You turned her joyful story into a lesson about cultural oppression. Starting to see a pattern I don't like. I was trying to help her think more deeply about these traditions. Were you trying to prove how enlightened you are? Helen asks this without malice, but it hits hard. Because from where I sat, it looked like you needed to be the smartest person in the room. Spend the next few days really examining my behavior. Remember conversation after conversation where I corrected, educated, enlightened. Remember the looks on these women's faces. Confusion, hurt, frustration. Thought they were learning. Maybe they were just enduring. Try calling Walter again after 2 weeks. Surprisingly, he answers, "What do you want, Mom?" His voice is cold, but at least he's talking. "I wanted to apologize." "For what specifically?" Realize I need to be very careful here. For maybe being too intense during conversations with your girlfriends. Long pause. "That's not an apology. That's minimizing what you did. Try again. Take a deep breath. I'm sorry for making Sarah feel bad about her career choice. And for making Rebecca feel judged about loving animals. And this is harder than I thought. And for questioning Maria's faith and her desire to have children. You're still not getting it." Walter's voice is frustrated. "You're apologizing for individual incidents, not for the underlying problem." Feel lost. What is the underlying problem? You can't stand to let other people exist without your commentary. His words sting because they ring true. You turn every conversation into a teaching opportunity where you're the teacher and everyone else is the student. Want to argue but force myself to really listen. I thought I was helping them grow. No, you thought they needed to become more like you to be acceptable. Walter's voice becomes sad. You couldn't just love them for who they were. Realize he's right. Every single one of those women was lovely in their own way, but I couldn't leave them alone. had to improve them, educate them, enlighten them. I didn't mean to drive them away, but you did, and now you've driven me away too. Feel my heart breaking all over again. Walter, please, what can I do to fix this? I honestly don't know if you can. Long pause. The person I'm seeing now, she's incredible. She's smart, funny, kind, successful. Feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe if I promise to just listen. She's also conservative. My heart sinks. She goes to church every Sunday. She wants to be a stay-at-home mom someday. She loves romantic comedies and thinks they're sweet, not problematic. Feel panic rising. Everything in me wants to explain why those things are concerning. Want to share articles and studies and research, but force myself to stay quiet. I can see you struggling not to say something right now. Walter's voice is almost amused. Even hearing about her beliefs secondhand, you can't help yourself. Realize he's testing me, and I'm failing. I'm trying to be supportive. No, you're trying to control yourself from being unsupportive. He's absolutely right. Which proves my point. You can't actually change who you are. Feel tears starting again. So, this is it? You're really going to keep me out of your life forever? Not out of my life. Out of my romantic life. Walter's voice softened slightly. I'll still have dinner with you sometimes. I'll still call on your birthday. But I'll never meet your wife. No. Never know my grandchildren. Probably not. Feel like I'm dying inside. Unless you can figure out how to love people without needing to change them first. Spend the next month really examining myself. Realize Walter is completely right. I have spent years disguising my need to be the smartest person in the room as feminist advocacy. Have used social justice language to justify talking down to people. Thought I was empowering women when I was actually patronizing them. Try to change, but it's harder than I expected. Catch myself about to correct a coworker's casual comment. Stop myself from sharing an article about problematic aspects of a friend's favorite TV show. Realize how often I was doing this, how exhausting I must have been to be around. Call Walter again after a month. How's your girlfriend? Decide to just ask simple questions and listen. She's wonderful. We're talking about moving in together. Bite my tongue to keep from asking about timeline and logistics. I'm happy you found someone special. Really try to mean it. Thanks, Mom. That actually means a lot. His voice is warmer than it's been in months. I know this is hard for you. It is, but I'm trying to understand. Pause. I think I've been a pretty terrible person to be around. Not terrible, just intense. Walter sighs. I know your heart was in the right place, but my behavior wasn't. No, it wasn't. At least he's being honest. The women I dated weren't projects for you to work on. They were people I loved. Finally really understand what I've done. Took Walter's happiness and made it about my need to educate and improve. Cost him multiple relationships because I couldn't just let people be themselves. I'm sorry. I'm truly, deeply sorry. I know you are. Walter's voice is sad, but I can't risk it happening again. I understand, even though it's breaking my heart. 3 more months pass. Walter calls less frequently. When he does, he doesn't mention his girlfriend. Realize he's protecting her from me even in conversation. This is my new reality. My son doesn't trust me to be a decent human being around the woman he loves. Run into his friend Marcus at the grocery store. Hey, Anne, haven't seen you in forever. Hi, Marcus. How are you? Try to make small talk, but really want news about Walter. Walter's doing great. Really happy these days. That's wonderful. Marcus looks around like he's checking if anyone can overhear. He's really serious about this girl. I think he's going to propose soon. Feel like I've been punched in the stomach. That's great news. Yeah, she's amazing. Perfect for him. Marcus grins. You're going to love her when you meet her. Don't have the heart to tell him I'll never meet her. I'm sure I will. Go home and cry for hours. My son is going to get engaged to someone I'll never meet. We'll probably have a wedding I won't attend. Might have children I'll never know. All because I couldn't control my need to educate everyone around me. Call my therapist and book an appointment. Need to figure out how to live with this. How to accept that my own behavior has cost me the most important relationship in my life. How to change in a way that might someday earn back Walter's trust. But deep down, I know it's probably too late. The damage is done. Walter found someone he loves, and he's protecting her from me, because he knows exactly who I am, and he'd rather die alone than watch me destroy another relationship. I raised a son who sees his own mother as a threat to his happiness, and the worst part is, he's absolutely right.